Hey, people in the Metaverse. We're back with more PodFest Asia, and this is our live taping for the Metaverse Asia podcast. And I'm super excited because I have my second guest from Ireland coming onto the show tonight. I remember my first guest who's Irish, is someone who is a Liverpool fan, a Liverpool supporter, just like me, on another podcast, which is about football, sports, and Liverpool Football Club. So tonight we're not going to be talking about football because my next guest, who's also hailing from Ireland, she's someone with a huge background and experience in the blockchain world, and someone that I really look up to. Her name is Gillian Godson. She is the Coindesk journalist. In fact, she was awarded the Blockchain Journalist of the Year by Uptrend.com, which is the largest blockchain social platform. And in 2018, she was awarded the Order of Merit by the President of Decentraland. And she's a passionate advocate for blockchain, a seasoned professional in fintech, and internationally recognized champion for equality, whether in homelessness, gender, or the law. And she changed the law in Ireland in 2014 and is a former European parliamentary candidate as an independent. She is also the author of more than 18 books. So I'll get to ask her tonight, right here, in my virtual podcasting studio. I'm in Singapore, so it's nighttime. It's 8:04 p.m. right now. I'll ask her, why blockchain needs women, and also more questions that I prepped for her. So without further ado, live from the podcasting virtual studio, let's welcome Gillian.
Hello, what a wonderful introduction. You are very kind, Wayne. And may I say, I used to live in Singapore. I lived there 27 years ago. And I know this because my first daughter was born there. So I am very fond of Singapore. I can tell you, beautiful country, fantastic food, and very warm people.
This is mind-bending. I didn't expect, there's any connection to Singapore, and your daughter was born here. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm always surprised by, things that I find out from all my guests on the show when I do live taping. So it's great that you just, reveal a little part, of what, your background is as well. So what brings you to Singapore in the past? Was it for work, or was it for some events or activities in the blockchain world?
No, that was pre my blockchain. I was working in fintech, and I worked with Hill & Knowlton, which is a big, major American PR company. And I traveled. I was married at the time, but I traveled with my husband from Sydney to Singapore to work there for 2 years. And I was Asia Pac director for technology. But I had an amazing time because Singapore is it's just fantastic. I mean, the food, the people, the food. The food. It's such an amazing place. And the best bit of all, from my perspective, was that where we lived there for 2 years, my address, now I'm Irish, as you said, my address was Dublin Lodge, which is Dublin's the capital of Ireland, and Killiney Road off Orchard Road. And when my mum would write to me, because this is 29 years ago, when we first moved there, you didn't really have, the internet wasn't there, you wrote letters. My mum would write to me, so she'd go, Gilly Godson, Dublin Lodge, Killiney Road, Killiney's a suburb of Dublin, Orchard Road, and then she'd go Singapore, the Far East.
Oh, so mind blown.
I bet you didn't know you lived in the Far East.
This is amazing, and of course, this sort of nuggets that we love to uncover, during this show. And now we see the Singapore connection. Next time we do a future in-person event for PodFest Asia, we hope that we can bring you here back to our shores and probably do a keynote for our audience. So it's something that you're on top of my list right now because you've been here. It'll be easier for you to navigate around sunny island Singapore, and probably wouldn't need to show you where are the good chicken rice in Orchard Road. Yeah, you probably only know where to actually hunt them down.
Even better, where the little townhouse where we lived, it was the back door of Lee Kuan Yew's official residence. I mean, we couldn't have been in a better place. We were blessed on all accounts.
That's near Somerset, right? Suddenly I can't remember the road name. Yeah. I think it's tucked in the middle, or should I say near the Istana or near Orchard Road as well. So that's a really nice neighborhood. So it's great, that we are connected because you've lived here, but I've never been to Ireland. So I hope that you will show me your your hometown,
Yes.
your country next time in the future when I come over and interview you in real life. So, well, let's get cracking because I prepped tons of questions for you.
Because this is not a tourism show. Sure, it's not. It's not a show on tourism. It's actually a blockchain show.
We could probably do a show on tourism in the future where I interview you about Ireland, you interview me about Singapore. Yeah. So let's dive in straight into the main topic for tonight. We know that you're so active in this field, and this is the world that you're living in right now. Yeah, which we can even say that this is the metaverse that we're living in, and even doing this, on a 2D screen on our laptops. We are actually part of the metaverse already, and being able to do this interview, even though we're miles apart, and you're not right here in Singapore at this moment, but I really have this a huge pleasure of actually having you coming to the studio to maybe ask you the first question. Why do you think that the blockchain needs women? And can you tell me, also some of the most interesting projects that you are working on right now involving women in blockchain?
Okay. Well, the first bit is I have a little joke about why blockchain needs women. And it's a joke, so it's a bad joke, but it gets the point. I think if the Lehman Brothers had been the Lehman sisters in 2008, we mightn't have had the global financial crash. Boom, boom. So actually, everything is better with women. And when I say women, I mean diversity, everything. Because as a population, we're 51% women, I think, and 49 men. And everything is improved when you have women at all levels and men. And, it's the whole diversity thing. So I'm actually stating an obvious thing. But right now, as we know, it's a bit of a sausage fest. So there's like there's maybe less than 10% women involved in this space. And it's growing rapidly. But it's too important. I mean, if I may say, what I love about blockchain is that it's innovative. It is so innovative. So the technology is massive. It's also, it unthinks the world. A lot of the times we do things because we've always done them, or we've done them that way the last 100 years, whatever. And you've got to unthink the world sometimes. And then the last point is that unlike maybe the dot-com boom that had both those elements, blockchain is, people behind it want to make the world a better place. And that primarily is, it's a huge, for me, it's such a glorious world to live in because we're all running around like mad things. We're doing business. We want to be successful. We're doing this. We're all doing mad things. But there's that core, that foundation. It's not like a greed is good thing. It's like, let's do good. And for that, you need women. You need women because men alone cannot dictate what is good. We need women to say, this could be better. And again, it's diversity. So that's why women are needed to be. It's too important. Oh my goodness, it's too important to be wasted on men alone. It's like, it's the most amazing thing I've ever come across in my career, in my life, I guess, so it's amazing. So when I tell you about some of the things that I'm working on that are very exciting, and they're kind of concept-led, actually, funnily enough. First one is privacy. Privacy is such an important thing. Now, we live in a world where it's been eroded. We haven't really noticed it with social media. There's more data leaking behind me than there is. Companies know more about me than I know about myself. And we know this. With the Cambridge Analytica, this social, we know we give away way, way too much. And then people say, oh, well, if you're, privacy, there's this kind of notion that, oh, if you don't have to hide, it doesn't matter. No, that's not the point. If I go to the bathroom, I want to close the door. And I will tell my doctor something quite different to this thing I will tell my postman. Privacy is a natural right enshrined in the vote, the democratic vote. So privacy is so, so important. And then blockchain, which came along, which is amazing, and DeFi in particular. So blockchain, it decentralizes lots of many things, but say with finance, it decentralizes finance, and DeFi is amazing. But it's so open. That very thing that we enjoy about this technology is open. It's like having your wallet in a big screen behind you saying, oh, she bought Starbucks. Oh, she bought a bottle of wine. And she bought, noodles every night this week. And I use the example of noodles because in China, of course, the government uses that level of surveillance, it is surveillance, to then give people a rate score. And then that means that dictates where they can go to, kids can go to school, what loans where they can live. So that's quite scary that, that surveillance is so powerful. Anyway, one of the projects that I'm working on that takes a very commonplace approach to it is Panther protocol. It's only new. What's interesting about it is it's not like a privacy, it's a privacy protocol, but it's not like, oh, we want to be very private and hide all that stuff. It's respect on both sides. And it uses zero knowledge proofs, which is really, that's like the magic beans in this particular space. And it's really cool because what it allows us to do, selective disclosure. And that makes sense because now you're negotiating and you give what is needed, but not necessarily what is always wanted. It's a much better way of and it gives dignity back to people. So that's a really powerful one. The other one I want to mention is Marhaba DeFi. Now, we couldn't go from one extreme to the other. Marhaba DeFi is what you might term a faith-based protocol, except that it's not quite that. It's not Muslim only, it's Muslim also, which makes sense because I'm not a Muslim. I'm not a Muslim. But what I didn't realize, I'm all for inclusion and diversity and stuff like that. But I didn't realize until I met this project was that if you're a Muslim, because of the various restrictions under Sharia finance law, you can't necessarily do interest and stuff like that. I didn't understand this, but it means that nearly 2 billion people in the world are not allowed to get involved in this amazing world. So I'm loving it because it's inclusive again, and there's Sharia scholars who are attached to it, and it allows people who want to come in. There's also a charity element, and I love that too as well. It must do good. And there's also a souk, NFT souk, which will be fun. It'll help highlight Islamic art, but not only Islamic and all. And then the third project that I'm actually working on is Demerch, actually based out of Ireland. So this is a local project, and they're like a concierge service on the Wax blockchain. And what's very nice about them is that everybody wants to mint their art. Everybody wants to do stuff. They want to get into NFTs. It's a very exciting. It's like a gateway drug to blockchain. It's amazing, but it's quite hard and it's not straightforward. So they offer a concierge service, and they're just very nice people. They do it very laid back, very kind. And the project they're doing at the moment is they're going to do a Muhammad Ali project with this amazing photographer, Christina Janssen, who was kind of an it girl back in the 80s. And she's a lovely woman, charming, but she's a photographer. And she met with Muhammad Ali and spent a couple of weeks with him, shooting him. And they kind of had this kind of very innocent romance. It was innocent, but it was a romance. He kind of like wooed her, if you like. And she has some amazing photographs. So we're going to do that. So those are three. That's a fourth reason to love blockchain. Look at the variety of projects. Where would you get that in your ordinary corner store? You wouldn't. Blockchain is just full of surprises.
And full of opportunities, right? And these are all really exciting projects. You mentioned about privacy, Islamic DeFi, right? And of course, this NFT project with this photographer that is basically minting some of her works involving Muhammad Ali on the Wax blockchain atomic hub, I assume. Is that right?
Yeah, and she's delighted because she is a photographer, a very successful photographer. She hasn't got a clue about blockchain. She doesn't really want to know about blockchain. She understands sort of the concepts, but she goes, I get it because it's not her thing. So it's nice to be able to help people. It's no more than like the Kings of Leon when they did their music, their 8th album on the blockchain as well. And that they were helped by a company called Yellowheart, I think it is, in the US. I've spoken, but I don't know them personally. But Kings of Leon did it because I think they earned 70% of all the income that came in, much more than they did down on Spotify or anything. And then they also gave away physical vinyl, so they're able to do that. I mean, Kings of Leon don't have a clue. I don't mean to be rude, but they're musicians, is what they do. And they also do the nice thing about this too as well, because they were able to earn so much money, they gave a huge whack of it away to a charity for roadies who were out of work during the pandemic. So it's just, NFTs are wonderful, but it's like, just because you want to do an NFT, if you're an artist, you don't need to become a techie all of a sudden. Like just because I paint doesn't mean I want to open a gallery. Or I'm actually, those are bad analogies, but you get my point. I hope.
I'm just checking my phone because that's the person you were referring to, the CEO of Yellowheart, right? His name is Josh Katz, because he was on the show. I think a month ago before you come on. So he's really responsible for actually helping this incredible band, right, Kings of Leon, to mint NFTs. And yeah, there's so many ways to enter this world, this metaverse where, blockchain, NFTs, they are an integral part of this. And of course, we have to talk about AR, VR later on as well. I've asked you already about some of these exciting things that you're working on. Can you also maybe tell us, besides this, what are the other things that most excite you about blockchain and cryptocurrency?
Well, I think when I got into it first, the thing that really grabbed me by the throat and was in a good way was the whole way to disrupt financial systems. My background, I don't want to bore you with it, but the reason why I was a candidate in the 2014 European Parliamentary elections was that I went through a personal total rout, a financial rout, if you like. I lost everything, my house. I was in the middle of a recession and divorce at the same time. I lost my house, I lost my business, everything went belly up. And I suddenly realized that the world is a bit stacked. The world is not equitable. And I hadn't really seen it before, at least not in such up close and personal before. And that really hit home to me. And that's what I ran, because I went, this is wrong. What's happening in the world is wrong. We know that Oxfam does its annual report at Davos every year, the financial conference. Actually, I went to Davos a couple of years ago with my blockchain hat on. But anyway, but the financial heads go there, and Oxfam produces this report which says, it shows that the inequality is growing year on year. So you have a very few number of people own so much, they're up here, and everybody else owns nothing. And that is not a distribution. There's enough abundance in this world. We don't need to give it just to the few people. And I think that's very important. And then, so when I went through my own personal horribleness, if you like, and then when I met blockchain, I went, oh, especially with banking and finance, I went, there's a different way of doing things where you don't have to be at the mercy of these banks that don't care about anybody, and all they care about is the bottom line. And I mean, banking was created to provide things like credit, which is very important because few people can afford to buy the big things in their life. If you want to purchase a house, few people have enough cash to pay for it. So you need lines of credit, or to open a business, or to do different things. You need lines of credit. So they were formed for a very good reason. But the way they work now is, so it's around the world over. It's all big banks. I don't care about the little person. And we know in the 2008 crash, the banks were all bailed out. Little people weren't. Little people were left high and dry. And so when I met blockchain and I understood that there was a different way to approach things, and I'm not an anarchist. I'm a middle-aged, middle-class lady who got, shipwrecked, if you like. But when I came to shore and I saw this, and I went, oh, there's a different way. And it's not, I don't have to, become a guerrilla and start shooting people or becoming a terrorist, to change the world. Not in my nature. I thought, oh, we can do it with technology, and technology has a heart. That's interesting, isn't it? Because most technology doesn't really have a heart. I know technology is agnostic, and it might be a foolish thing to say, but because of the ethos behind the people that are working in the space, I think there is a heart. There's a beating heart there that has a concern for other people. And it's not just people outside the industry might look and go, oh, it's all FOMO, it's all Lambo, Wenmoon. And there is an element of that. And that's exciting. Of course it is. I mean, I wish I was a trader, an investor. I'm sure I'd be very wealthy by now if I was. And I wish them well, those who are. But that's not what it is for me. It's more the fact that, like, for example, rewarding people. You look at the farmers, perhaps, who nowadays increasingly are giving data to go onto supply chains for so conscious consumers who want to buy products that come from sustainable sources, right? So that's really good, and that's very good. The brand in the middle does great because they can now sell to all those millennials and Generation Z who want to buy stuff that is actually, the sustainable, and people aren't being ripped off. Yeah, it's great. But the farmer doesn't get that much from it ordinarily. I mean, it's great. We have this blockchain thing, this lines. But increasingly, there are projects like Suku, which say, right, okay, let's actually reward. And there's many more. There's things like Regen, other projects that are rewarding people for being custodians and guardians of the earth, like small farmers. And the big thing that I learned, I was interviewing actually the CEO of Suku, and he said this to me, and he said, we provide microloans to farmers, and it's based on they earn tokens from providing the data. They can stake them, they can get credit, they can spend them, bring their wife or husband out to dinner, whatever they want to do. But they can earn loans. And he said they can earn these microloans. And he stopped and he said, they're not microloans to the people who are getting them. And I thought, whoa, because sometimes in the Western world, and you're in the Eastern world, but sometimes in the more affluent world, we think, oh, microloan, it's only 50 euros, only $50, whatever. But that could be a year's supply of grain for somebody. So that's really impressive. I'm going, whoa, that's powerful. That is, and we can do that through technology with a heart and not have to go and kill people or, organize a revolution or something like that. I wouldn't be very good at a revolution. I'd be like, excuse me, could we please come here? I'd be locked out.
I think you just gave a brilliant example. Yeah, the underbanked, the farmers seeking a microloan. There's so many instances where, if they go to the banks and they will get rejected for their loan application and no answers or reasons will be given. And they will be always in dark, wondering why is it not approved, right? And these are the things that probably, these are the dinosaurs or the antiquated processes that need to go away and really move on with the times. And, talking about moving with the times, right? Could you maybe tell us about why owning NFTs or cryptocurrency in this day and age means that you are now part of the metaversal experience? Why do you think that, even like VR and AR are metaverse adjacent? And this is a 3-part question, by the way. Have you also ever attended a work meeting or a party using a digital avatar and then tread into this neighborhood of metaversality?
I have a little bit on the I'll ask you the last question first. You may have to remind me the other two as I go back. But I remember I was at a Liberland event, and it was a conference. It was last year, and we all were in this metaverse. It was kind of weird going around and meeting people, and that was fun. And I'm also hoping there's another, I think it's the Leadership podcast. They do interviews, and you are an avatar the whole time. So when you watch it, it's two avatars talking. And I'm going, oh, I want to do that, because apart from anything else, I don't have to worry about my hair or makeup. Not that, but it's kind of fun. And we're all used to being at home in our activewear. I mean, I got dressed today. I hope you're impressed. Normally I'm in my activewear. So but I like the idea of having that freedom of doing it. So I've done a little bit of it, not a huge amount. I want to do more because I'm a writer and an artist as well. And when I write, especially when I write my fiction books, I want people to enter a make-believe world. That's through my words. So why not do it in digital? And I remember some time ago, someone said to me, why would you buy an NFT? And I'm going, well, because how much of your time is spent online anyway? Why not enjoy your art online as well as, I actually took to painting over the lockdown. I put all my paints up on my walls. I'm terrible. I've got about 20 of my paintings framed and on the walls. My kids go, Mum, really? I'm going, I like them. But the same way, I like this. Why not be in a metaverse? Why not go in and look at the things that you bought? So there's a lot of reasons for having them. And then another thing that I did recently, and I want to talk about it a little bit later on. I want to quote you from my book. I wrote a book called Persons of Interest, and it's 42 interviews with leading people from around the world. And I did sketches of them all after. I've become very creative during lockdown. COVID was good for my creativity. And I got a graphic designer, actually my daughter, to make them into different, do graphic design on them, if you like, and different varieties. And I'm going to mint this collection towards the end of the month. But the other one of the things that I'm doing, so it's one thing I'm adding value, because I've made these caricatures, which are a mixture of Quentin Blake, who was the illustrator for Roald Dahl, and a 5-year-old. So, you get where it stands. But when people buy them, they'll be able to get hold of my articles, so to read them. So there's something behind it. It's not like Kings of Leon gave a physical vinyl. I'll give an article. So it might be someone, John McAfee, who we'll talk about. You'll get his interview as well. But the other thing that I'm talking with another company, another project, this is why it's so exciting, called Immersus. And Daniel Knott is a CEO there. And what he is doing, he's setting up a metaverse in which NFTs will have a purpose. So I'm thinking my NFTs have purpose because they're real people, so I like them. They're sketches by me, so I like that. They have access to my articles, that's kind of value. But can you imagine if they were also, you could use them in a game to trade for, shovels. Actually, it's very funny. I was interviewing Dan. He kept saying, and you're chopping wood. I'm going, is that all you do in the metaverse, chop wood? He says, no, but it's the most common analogy that we use. I'm going, okay, so you could use my metaverse to get one of my NFTs to get an axe to chop some wood or something. So I'm really at the beginning, because NFTs, they're not just for access into metaverses. Of course, they're access to real events. It's just digital uniqueness, which we never had before. We had the internet, but everything was a copy, and now we have a unique thing. And that's just that. There are things that will come down the track that we cannot even conceive.
I think you just answered the first part and the second part of the question with that answer as well. So very well said, my friend. We can move on to talk about John McAfee, right? And someone that you have actually profiled in your book, and you mentioned already the title is called Persons of Interest. Tell us, how was this interview, with the late trailblazer, I would say, and also this blockchain activist John McAfee, right? I think back in 2019 for this book, yes. I think when he spoke to him about poetry, right? Because I was watching that footage preparing for this podcast, and I saw that he was basically reading poetry to you. And one of the answers that really captured my imagination was when he answered what he wanted on his tombstone, right? Maybe for the benefit of our listeners who haven't, read your book yet or listened to that podcast, tell us what was his answer of what he wanted on his tombstone, and also tell us what other insights that you can glean from this conversation with him, and also explain the choice why you want to capture him in profile for your book.
Well, first of all, I want to say I'm deeply sorry that he's no longer with us. He was a giant. You don't become a giant without crushing some pygmies. So he had a very colorful life, without a shadow of a doubt. People love him or hate him, but overall, I really, really admired the man. He did a lot of good. He was a crazy man, and I think you need to be a bit crazy sometimes to be in this world. But I'm so sorry, and I will send my condolences to Janice's wife, his widow, because I'm sorry. The world was not ready to lose him yet, I would say. But I asked him we had this conversation. We were joking away, and I sort of said, "What do you want on your tombstone, John?" This is a hale and hearty man 2 years ago, and I mean, full of life, oh my goodness, full of testosterone in life. And he joked, looked behind him, and he went, "Hope my tombstone's not there yet." He kind of joking, but then he said he opted for. This was what he wanted on his tombstone: lover of life and many women, adventurer, poet, and who found his lasting soulmate in Janice. And I just thought that kind of summed him up. He definitely a larger than life character. But may I read just one thing about poetry, because I didn't expect this, because I was interviewing him about the new exchange. It was a DEX. He wasn't going to collect any KYC. He was going to tell the SEC, "Oh, I forgot to collect." He was like, so, it was just funny. But we got into poetry, and he was quoting poetry. He wasn't. He just at the top of his head, deeply intelligent man. But if I can read this I think sums him up. I think it's lovely. "Poetry is tough," he says. "Being truthful is core to poetry. It is a song of the heart. The heart song is its own song. Poetry toes no lines and obeys no exceptions. A true poet. Give me someone like Edgar Allan Poe. Now that is if I may curse, fucking poet. Everything he wrote was poetry, whether some deep down soul rendering thought like in The Raven, once upon a midnight dreary when I pondered weak and weary, or in the sounds of his poetry. He wrote the bells in which the refrain was, the bells, the bells, the bells, the bells, the bells, went on and on. He goes, to the tintinnabulation that so musically wells from the bells, the bells, the bells. And he repeated the word several times. And the automatic nature of the poem gives him great delight. I still can't say that word properly, but I just thought, what a lovely, and then he did a bit later on. He quoted me from Hamlet. And the poem, the verse that he quoted to me was from when the king looks at his death. And he said this to me. He quoted, "To die, to sleep, perchance to dream. Aye, there's the rub. For in that sleep of death, what dreams may come when we have shuffled off this mortal coil must give us pause." So the late, great John McAfee. And I'm sorry, the world, as I say, is a much sorrier place without him.
Yes, 100%. I think, one of my biggest regrets is not starting this show earlier so that I could hunt him down. I know it's hard to pin him down because he's always moving from place to place, right? And, if one of my biggest regrets is not having the opportunity to actually talk to him or even have just a 1 minute, just to say thank you for doing what you are doing. I think what he has done, I think many people have he's probably one of the most underappreciated people in the world, I think. Not just in terms of technology, in terms of how he has actually impacted a lot of people with some of the very impactful things that he says. Yeah. And of course, he's someone that will be deeply missed. So I urge everyone to actually check out your podcast. We will include that link later on to the episode that I was just listening to just now. And when he was repeating those words, it really got drilled into my mind. And I think it's something that we need to hear it and to really appreciate.
It was just an unusual conversation because we were chatting. And I said it was a business interview that I'd lined him up for, and it was about his new decks, whatever. And then we just sort of strayed into this poetry, and it was like, whoa! And afterwards I went, that was an interesting conversation. Wow, I didn't expect that. It was, and especially now because I find it very hard to believe he's no longer with us. I find that strange, but because he was such full of life. And
such a funny man too. John McAfee is a comedian, I think, because I listen to him on other podcasts like I think Travis Wright has a really great podcast called Bad Crypto Podcast. So this week they were reminiscing all the 5 appearances where he actually guested on their podcast called Bad Crypto Podcast, and they were all extremely funny. So I also urge everyone out there to go check out those.
They're great. The Bad Crypto Podcast. Brilliant guys.
Brilliant, yeah. Brilliant show. So, there's one of
I've been on that. And they teased me for my Irish accent. They said I had an Irish accent, not an Irish accent, an Irish accent.
Yeah, and it's incredible, to actually be able to actually talk about the topics that are close to our hearts and be able to know one another. I think this is where we can actually see the benefits of blockchain as well, because everyone is passionate about this the industry and of course the community especially, and it brings also like podcasters and journalists like us, together. So we want to definitely pick your brains a little bit more. Can you maybe advise, for those women listeners out there, what they should actually, what maybe share 3 things that you would advise to other women in the blockchain space in order to thrive in this industry?
Well, first off, I would say, now, I don't, it depends on whatever part of the world you're in. Lockdown is easy in many parts, thank the Lord. Go to meetups and go to ordinary meetups. But if it's women-only meetups, go to them too as well, because women are very supportive of women. Just very funny. There's this fallacy that women can be, again, excuse the French, bitchy to other women. It's not true. And the women are no more horrible to women than men are horrible to men. There are horrible people in this world, of course. And women, especially because it's such an underrepresented gender in this business, are more than happy to help people and give people a nudge. So go onto meetings when they open up. And if not, I'm a member of the Bigger Pie meetup group. It's an online group at the moment, mostly based out of the UK and run by Bridget Greenwood. But it's brilliant because there's a lot of support in there. People, they post opportunities, they post conversations. So just join a local group for sure. In person if you can, if not online, we'll have to do. Second thing, and this is a little trick, it's like a little magical trick, and it's actually across the board for anybody, but for women do it too as well, in particular. Put blockchain in your LinkedIn profile. Now, right now, you might not be in blockchain. Right now, you might be looking in, curious, whatever. You don't have to say I'm a blockchain expert. There are very few of those around the place anyway, trust me. But you could just say blockchain enthusiast, advocate, friendly, blockchain friend. Doesn't really matter. Stick it in your LinkedIn profile, and you'll be surprised at the opportunities that arise. People will approach you and talk to you, and it's by osmosis almost it'll happen. And the third thing, again, is going back to this notion that women are not helpful. Talk to other women. If you know other women who are in this space, approach them. See if they can help you. Now, people are all very busy, of course. It's not always necessarily possible for this to happen. But most people, even if you say, can I have 5 minutes? Could I give you some advice? Do you know this person? Can you introduce me to this person? That's a great thing to do, because, and I do it for men and women, obviously, but sometimes it's quite hard to break down that barrier. Ask for help. And if you're in a position to give help if you can. So those are the 3 tips. Join things, especially women, because they'll give you focus. Put blockchain in your LinkedIn and ask for help.
Fantastic advice. And, I think one of the things that comes to mind when you were sharing all this great advice, right? I think it really rings true because so many marketing agencies, they are also like setting up NFTs arm or departments because it's also a very great marketing vehicle. And anyone who has that word blockchain appearing in the CV, right? Immediately they are highly sought after. And I'm just looking at my LinkedIn just hours before I came on. Like even Gary Vaynerchuk, who recently released this collection of really successful VFriends project, right? His agency has set up a new company called, I think, Vayner NFTs, and is helmed by Avery Aknani, who used to be the head of APAC for Vayner Media in Singapore, based in Singapore. Now she's heading that particular arm for Vayner Media, and of course they don't care whether you're male or you're female, as long as you are someone who is well versed in blockchain and probably have actually knowledge of how to navigate in the world of NFTs, being able to actually speak of Metaverse. I think that is where you already have the advantage, right? So you mentioned something that is definitely a great advice for female listeners out there. Tell us also about your recent Coindesk story. Because as a journalist of Coindesk, you recently wrote this really brilliant godson of Andy Warhol, Philip Kobe, right? Who built a career creating red cartoon lobsters. Now he's setting up the Decentraland virtual world on Ethereum, collaborating with American band Devo. That headline has so many things that I'm interested in.
I know, it's like bing, bing, bing.
Decentraland, that's one of the leading metaverse out there, right? And of course, Andy Warhol and Philip Colbert. Tell us, are you a fan of his? And
I am now. I have to confess, and if you look at my walls and my paintings, I'm not terribly au fait with the art world. I'm not a natural, but I was introduced to him, and he is a charming man. He's kind, he's lovely. He was minding 2 children as we were talking, lovely. And he has this thing. He said, when I became a lobster, Then I became an artist. I went, oh, that's so cool. And that fits in for him with the metaverse, because he's creating this world. And I haven't been, because I only met him a couple of months ago, so I haven't been to any of his exhibitions. But it means that when he creates this world in a gallery, it's this whole lobster themed world that he has. So even better in a metaverse, because it's easier. You don't have to rely on physical things. And he told me, I don't think it ended up in the story. He told me that one of his exhibitions, because he's been doing lobsters for a while now, I think it was in Berlin. Some friends of us happened to be there, and they spotted this lobster cult. These people who worship lobsters, who were in the gallery and bowing down and doing everything. And he said, I think I've arrived. I've got a cult that are revering me. And he said, I had to check. They're a friendly cult. It's all right. They're not into, eating babies or something like that. They just like lobsters. And then I was very funny. I was saying to him, have you eaten lobster? And he hasn't, of course. So that would be a bit funny. And the other thing he wanted to do too as well, we got onto tombstones as well. It's kind of weird. He was thinking of, because he makes some furniture with his art, and he has like dresses and clothes and stuff like that. But he's thinking of making a lobster-themed granite chair at his gravestone. Wow. With the idea that the weary visitor, if they, because he is very well known, he's world famous now, of course. But and presuming that he carries on, whatever. So when he dies, and hopefully in the fullness of time, at a very old age, lots of grandchildren all around him. But when he's buried, that he would have a chair, so people come and visit his grave. They can sit in this lobster chair. That's cool. That's cool.
Cool.
He was just. I loved him because he was accessible. He explained stuff to me, and I went, oh, and he's a very charming young man. Yeah, he loves it.
I realized that your choice of your interviewees, right, or your guests, they are all super cool. John McAfee and Philip Kobe as well. So for your second edition of your book, who will you be capturing in profile for the second book?
I don't know. It's not funny. I've got some already done. There's a very old BBC program called Blue Peter, and it's a make you do program, and they'd be making stuff, and then they'd say, and here's one we made earlier, so perfect, whatever they were making. So I have got some interviews already done. I'm very privileged in a number of things. One, that I'm a journalist in this space, and as you said, had you set your podcast up earlier, you probably could have got to John McAfee, and he probably would have agreed to be interviewed, because it's a very nascent industry and people are very accessible. So I love the fact that I'm a journalist and broadcaster, and I can reach out to people. So sometimes people just tumble in my lap. It comes by. Sometimes I'm going, like with John McAfee, I did reach out to him. He was definitely a giant I wanted to speak to. Other times I interview this wonderful woman who actually, she is on OnlyFans. This amazing woman, Rihanna Fletcher, she's now working for BitBook, I think now, but at the time she was living in the Philippines, still is, I think. And she sort of fell into blockchain. She was writing. She also she was a large lady who lost weight, made a lot of money in crypto, used it to help with surgery. So she has a body that she loves. And she's just full of beans. And she's on OnlyFans as well, too, because she's doing a book about BDSM. And I'm going, and she has the most wonderful energy. She's just gorgeous. She's lovely, and I love chat. I've spoken to her twice now. I've interviewed her twice, and that was like a pure accidental thing. There was no reason per se for me to interview her. She wasn't particularly, she wasn't like a John McAfee or anything. And then I have people like I mentioned earlier, Liberland. I'm the Irish delegate, whatever. I'm not quite sure. We're not big on titles, but I'm the editor-in-chief of the Liberland Press. So, and I've been to Liberland, which is the micronation between Serbia and Croatia. And it's formed now, it's 6 years old, I think now. And I went to the Floating Man Festival a couple of years ago. And that was, so I've interviewed the president of Liberland. I mean, I remember he gave a talk in London one time, and he said, most people, he said, entrepreneurs, whatever, people, they might want to form a company. How about forming a country? I thought, whoa, you got me there. And the nice thing is that no blood has been shed, and nor is there likely to be bloodshed. It's not that kind of country. And I like that too as well, because it's nice to do things peaceably. I love the fact that the banks can be taken down, or certainly their arrogance and the way that they prey on people can take down in a peaceful way through technology. So and if people want to be into it, come to me. I love people. I have many shows here in Ireland, 2 radio shows. And one of them is called Making a Difference. It's on Dublin City FM. And I interview people who are giants, but I also interview people who make a difference on their street. and who would never ordinarily get on a radio program. It's proper radio program, proper radio show. And this wouldn't get there. They wouldn't be allowed. But because they just, maybe, I don't know, maybe they have a run, look after old people doing runs. It doesn't matter. People making a difference. So people are endlessly interesting. So, but come and talk to me. I'd like to add you to my list for sure. Whoever wants to be interviewed.
This is the reason why, I connected with you on LinkedIn. When I saw your Coindesk article and when I read about your profile as well, I told myself I have to bring you on to this show so that I could, get to know you more. And of course, you're someone who will lift others. You spotlight so many, saucy, thoughtful, quirky, energized, crazy, intelligent, and inspiring players in this space, from world presidents to models on OnlyFans, like what you just mentioned. So, this is really exciting. Some might even call weird and wacky world of blockchain and cryptocurrency, right? And your book, I think, epitomized everything about this space, and it's for anyone interested in this sector. Yeah. So, before we send you out, we just hit the I think almost 50th minute mark. So I'm going to move on to a quick rapid fire question round with you momentarily. So here are the rules. You must give really short and pithy response, maximum 1 or 2 sentences. So are you ready?
One question before we start. If my mind goes blank, can I go pass?
Yes.
Okay, just in case the old brain cells go, ooh. Okay,
let's go. All right. What are your proudest life moments?
My 2 children. They're grown up now, 27 and 24. Georgina and Catherine, amazing young women. Sorry.
What do you want doing less of in 2021?
Work. I want to write more.
Yeah, that's actually my next question. What do you want to do more of in 2021 besides writing?
Oh, more writing and painting. I really want to move from the business world to the pure. I'm in 3 books this month. Creative books that I've taken part in. I want to do more writing. I love writing, creative writing. I want to do it.
Your favorite life lesson quote?
From my mum. Well, I went through a very difficult divorce and recession, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, she always said, ever onwards and upwards, maybe sideways, but never backwards.
Oh, I love that. Maybe sideways. What would you want written or carved out on your tombstone?
Writer who did some good in this world, and mother, maybe that way. Yeah, nice person, good person. Yeah.
Short and sweet. Yeah. Your advice for women entering this blockchain space?
Go for it. Absolutely, go for it. You can do it. You can do it. Come and join me and the other women. You will be welcome. You will be welcome.
Any future ambitions or side projects in the pipeline?
I want to win some prizes for my writing. I've got one novel that I'm trying to write at the moment. I'm so busy. I wanted to win loads of prizes.
How can people reach you?
LinkedIn is the best one. So Gillian Godson, Gillian with a J, Godson in LinkedIn. That's the easiest way to reach me.
And this is your Twitter account handle and also your website, right? So that's also other ways to reach you?
Absolutely. I'll welcome all. I pretty much keep on top of my social media. So, and by the way, if I miss you, buzz me again. This is because for some reason I didn't see it. I would not knowingly ignore somebody, unless it was a direct sales call. I would not knowingly ignore somebody.
I'm a big fan of yours and I'm a big fan of this conversation. So thank you so much, Gillian. Before we say goodbye to you, any last words or message for our listeners who are replaying this podcast on their AirPods or their smart speakers later on?
Well, I have to say, it has been a fantastic time spent with you. You're a wonderful host. You're so enthusiastic. I feel $1 million. So you have done a great job as host, because I'm finishing this podcast feeling like a god. So thank you so much for your time and energy and the privilege to be on here. I feel great. Who needs drugs or pills or anything? I don't know. I'm not quite taking them, but thank you. Amazing.
Thank you, Gillian. I really super appreciate you. And you don't have to say those nice things, but really, I appreciate you.
I feel absolutely amazing. No idea. Things. I feel $1 million.
I'll see you very, very soon, my friend. Hopefully either in Ireland or when you're back here in Singapore, and we can bring you here to speak to our audience, for a keynote in the future, hopefully. So fingers crossed. Hopefully that day will come when air travel is possible again. So I'll see you very, very soon, my friend.
Thank you.
Please take care of yourself and everyone over there in Dublin. Bye-bye. Cheers.
Cheers.
That's Gillian Godson. So do check out her LinkedIn. And of course, that's URL right below here. We'll insert her podcast episode, which is a riveting listen and a must play, for anyone, who is probably, still thinking about the John McAfee of his controversial, way that he passed away recently. And of course, he's always been an activist and a huge giant, in this blockchain space. So, with that, I'm going to end tonight's session and broadcast. We'll be back with more Metaverse Asia podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today to learn more about our special guests. Do check out our podcast show notes. You've been listening to the Metaverse Asia podcast presented by PodFest Asia. This episode is hosted and produced by me, Wayne Chong. So thank you. I'll see you very, very soon. Goodbye.